Okay, so finally I'm going to run through the whole process end to end, so all the videos that you have seen so far should click and you should understand what you'll need to do. So in the pre-process folder, I haven't worked it out yet, I will work out a way of telling you which images I want to be worked on, what size they'll be for inclusion into a page. I will probably even get you to build the page as well, so that everything is ready to go and copy just needs to be dropped in. So there'll be I want to get you to do as much work as possible. I think that benefits both of us. Anyway, for now, what I would like to do is start with this image here. I know that this image will make it into the final cut, and I think it's a good image to talk through at the moment because it also has this white space here, which will happen. I will be briefing in images that are panoramics, and I'll show you a few other things, that a few other skills in Photoshop with this image in particular. So what are we going to do? First of all, we're going to edit this image. So we're going to develop. So obviously you're going to have all of these images synced up on your computer. So any saving that you do, I will eventually receive on my computer, so that we've both got copies and can collaborate quite easily. So to start off with, my base preset, I've talked through all the requirements that go into a base preset. Obviously happy for you to tweak anything that I've instructed, but I have obviously worked on this for a long time and it works very well for me. So I'll just pause the video because sometimes it can take a little while. Okay, it didn't take too long, and I'll do these edits so that you can see you know, an image and how I attack it end to end, and you can modify it how you want. So because this was because this is a raw file, the exposure I'm able to bring down quite a bit now. I'll just go 1 to 2 and have a look here, and so there's really, I don't think, I'm just looking for what information besides white is in the image, and where I start to lose that, where I start to lose it. So getting it as bright as possible without actually losing information. Yeah, about there. It's a little bit over, but I'm going to bring it back with other tools. So as you can see, to get that sky, everything else is quite dark. So generally these shadows, they really, highlights right down, shadows right up. Having the shadows just is unappealing in most of the images, I find. Around about the 90% will work for most images. Because we're trying to brighten this up now, we'll go 95, and now I'm just going to start mucking around with these. And what I'm trying to do now is bring it back, with the shadows back. Maybe about there. I'll come down into the shadows. I'm not entirely confident at the moment that the exposure, I think it might be a bit too dark because the shadows or the bottom half of the image is it's not looking right. So I'm going to go back up and put a bit more exposure into it. Still at minus 1.31, which is quite a bit. And I'm going to go the other way. I'm going to try and bring the blacks down. And this is starting to look better. Doing the shadows. Obviously this is all subjective. But yeah, you've been doing an amazing job with the Photoshop side of things. So I know your eye is good. I know you can look at an image and know what it needs eventually. And I know from seeing what you've done that you're prepared to put in the effort to get them to look good, because it does take effort sometimes. Now this is a good this is the classic example of the luminance of the greens benefiting from just coming down a little bit. Not too much that it looks fake, and they do tend to become luminescent. There's not really that much happening in the oranges. We can try the aquas and the blues, but generally not. It's just that that sky is so blown out. Even with HDR, possibly if I had have done, you know, that was 5 shots, I might have needed to have done, you know, 6 shots with a higher bracket, more brackets, to get that sky to calm down. But as you could see, there's simply no information in there, because it was trying to basically the middle frame was down too low. So while it exposed here really well, it didn't expose up there. It needed more stops in the HDR. But it still looks good. It'll look fine. So that's probably it. Let me just go down to dehaze. It is a bit hazy in the sky down there. What's that going to do for it? Maybe a little bit of dehaze, and then I might pull back the darkness. You'll just have to get a feel for which of these sliders does what. Obviously I can always bring it back in Photoshop. What I'm trying to do is create a flat file, as I've said before. So yeah, about there. That will allow me to really push the image in Photoshop. It's a bit under here and it's a bit under here. I can push it both ways. So now, what do I do now? I'm fairly happy with that. We'll go to export. Now, because I did it before, you'll be able to do export with previous. I've already gone to the post-process folder. So if I go export with previous, it's going to put it in the same spot with the same settings, which speeds things up. So you really only need to do it for each major location. So Lamington National Park, you need to do it once, and then you can export with previous each time. And that's exporting out now. I'll come back in a sec. Okay, so that's loaded into Photoshop. Just before I go there, I'll just quickly show you why I use Lightroom. So if I click on the reset, this is going to show you what the image looked like before I did anything. So there we go. And if I do Control Z, we'll show what Lightroom is capable of with raw editing. you can see that there's not a lot of information up the top there at all, and I don't know if it's having a think about it or not. I'll just pause the video and try and get it back. Well, I don't actually know what happened there. If I'm clicking Control Z, undo blue luminance shift, all the steps that I've done, but all these are at 0, so there's a bit of a bug. It usually is fine. You can click on the reset, have a look, and then Control Z and get back to where you were. This is the first time that's ever happened. So anyway, it doesn't matter. Moving into Photoshop, that was the file that this is the file that we need to work with. So I'm now going to set this up as a 1093 by 598 image. So I'll click play on there, and I will come back once that's done. Okay, so this is finished, and now we have a prepped image for this size. So I'll go ahead and transform the image. Now what you'll notice is that I really want this guy, I want as much of this image as possible in the frame, because it really does make a difference. Now what I'm going to look for is what I can get away with to clone this image. So yeah, look, I might even leave it there. I really want this not spread out too far, because a lot of these details right out on the edge do make a difference. Also, I will say that I don't mind if you squish an image this way or squish an image this way. So long as it still looks natural, you can get away with quite a lot in nature. Where you won't get away with it is like that guy there, for instance. I mean, no, he still looks alright, kind of like that, but obviously the rest of the image will look fine, but it's structures and things like that where you won't get away with it. Now I'm kind of happy with, I really want to create some image here to make it as atmospheric as possible, so I might just leave that like that. So I'm going to place that. And now I'm going to right click on the layer, and I'm going to edit the contents. Okay, now there's a number of ways to do to get some information into here. The first way is to press S, which is the clone stamp tool. Now, using your right and left brackets on your computer, usually near the enter key, you can make the brush bigger and smaller. Now there's one other, sometimes you might notice that there is no circle. You go up and you go down with the brackets and there's no circle there. The reason is caps lock. So press caps lock, it gets rid of it and puts it back again. So that's one that'll stump you if you don't know about it. Now I'm coming over here. If I press Alt to take a sample, essentially where I click, I'm holding Alt and then I'm clicking, and that will take a sample area. Let go of Alt, come up here, that's the start point. So basically you can see the crosshair is trailing on that area and it's creating additional information. Now as you can see, it starts to look fake because you've got one there and one there. So what I generally do is I'll take it from a different area and then come back again, and then just get it to a point where there's no pattern there. Another way, so I could do that down here as well, and I could just build this out. Another way that I can do it is to, I'll just get a selection